Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Previously, a bombshell, a world-shaking event. It seems that, well, one of the highest names in the Japanese justice system, Seishiro Jigoku, a judge, was found guilty of murdering a Scotland Yard officer. And, well, I don't think we're even done, because we don't know who the Reaper is. And I feel like we're going to continue this trial, one way or the other. No matter who wants to end it soon, no. Ryunosuke needs to put his foot in the door and demand that it continue, so... Oh boy, let's begin. Moments ago, Mr. Jigoku signed a written confession, admitting to the murder of Inspector Gregson and the subsequent conveyance of the body. In short, the defendant's innocence has therefore been established beyond doubt.
Oh, wonderful. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes, thank you.
Is something wrong?
I'm just a little troubled by his silence. The true identity of the Reaper of the Bailey and this extraordinary assassin exchange. We do remain in the dark about these mysteries, however. Insofar as the indictment brought against the defendant in this trial, we have reached a conclusion. I have every intention of pursuing both mysteries. As a prosecutor. As you wish. Now for the formal adjudication. I hereby declare the defendant, Barak van Zieks.
Objection!
The prosecution calls for adjudication to be deferred. Counsel? The accused's innocence hasn't been fully established at all. And therefore, it would be wrong to deliver a verdict at this time. That is the prosecution's unwavering position.
What? But Judge Jigoku has already confessed.
Nevertheless, Barak van Zieks has committed crimes for which he must be punished. Well, it would appear you have information that the court needs to hear, Prosecutor Asogi. Certainly, the murder of Inspector Gregson was actually carried out by Seishiro Jigoku. But it's clear from the witness's testimony that he was coerced into complying with the plot. Into this sick, merciless assassin exchange. That may be true, but... So what I want to know is, who coerced Jigoku? Who was pulling the strings? The victim went into France having been ordered on a mission for the Reaper, only to be murdered. In other words, the mastermind behind the assassin exchange is someone in a position to give such an order. As we've already established, the Reaper himself. Well, certainly, that would appear to follow. The prosecution hereby formally accuses the man in the dock, Barak van Zieks, of being the Reaper of the Bailey, and furthermore, I'm going to prove his guilt beyond all reasonable doubt.
What? What?
Oh, here we go. Order! 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 The Reaper of the Bailey is a long-standing mystery, Counsel. Are you suggesting you have some new information with which to build a case? No, it feels nice to have the judge's ire and pressure be placed upon someone else for a change.
Feels real nice. Scotland Yard has already investigated Lord Van Zieks very thoroughly in that regard. And they found no evidence whatsoever to substantiate the claim that he is the Reaper.
Perhaps, but circumstances have now changed.
What do you mean?
It's already been established that the Assassin Exchange was negotiated with Jigoku by the Reaper himself, which means we now have a new line of questioning by which to identify definitively the man's identity. That is the prosecution's intention here. I must say I'm surprised by quite how tenaciously you appear to want to besmirch my name. Yeah, I think I've decided. I think Kazuma's putting on a front. He's letting everyone think that his attention is on Van Zieks, but no, I think he's already suspecting Stronhart. You are guilty of an unforgivable crime, Lord Van Zieks. And I will bring you to justice for it, whatever it takes. That explains Kazuma's silence before. He'll stop at nothing to finish what Lord Van Zieks unwittingly started 10 years ago. Very well, whilst it's extremely irregular, I will on this occasion grant the prosecution further opportunity for witness testimony. The defendant will disclose any and all involvement he has had with the Reaper and the Assassin Exchange. I thank you, my lord, for guiding the court so wisely. I hereby declare this court to be in session for a supplementary hearing. Pray turn a blind eye to the discourtesy as I verify that this vile and unremitting accusation hasn't soured the contents of my hallowed chalice. Lord Van Zieks, I first had to suffer the pseudonym of the Reaper 10 years ago now, and ever since that time I've endured the rate of implied guilt that's gone with it. So I welcome the chance to testify now, and crush those allegations once and for all. Good. Then let justice decide, Lord Van Zieks. The prosecution seeks to begin building its case by calling the accused to the stand as the primary witness, in order that he may answer the accusation brought by the prosecution that he is the Reaper of the Bailey. And what says the defense?
Putting the defendant in the witness stand can be extremely dangerous. And Kazuma-sama is so emotional at the moment, he's not thinking logically.
You're right that he's not himself, but I knew it would be like this, and I came here today determined to face him through whatever might arise, as a lawyer and as his friend.
Then that's what we must do.
The defense has no objection, my lord. Very well. Defendant, you will take the witness stand and give formal testimony on the subject of your involvement with the Reaper and the Assassin Exchange. As you wish, my lord. I've never taken the life of another, nor have I instructed another to kill. I've been investigating the truth behind the Reaper for years, and I was aware of Gregson's involvement. That's the reason why I went to Fresno Street that day, and how I came to discover the body. The point is, no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. Okay, well, here's himself, Gregson, and Wilson, but, okay, that's Clint. Okay. Clearly, therefore, there's no reason to suspect me of being behind the Assassin Exchange. So you deny all accusations by the prosecution, both that you are the Reaper of the Bailey and that you masterminded the assassin exchange.
I acknowledge that the public at large believe me to be the Reaper. However, that's a fallacy, which I alone am in a position to forswear.
Naturally, the prosecution believes the testimony just given by the accused to be untrue. Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
Yes?
Let me ask you, why are you here? What really brings you to this courtroom?
A desire to uncover the truth.
Even if the truth proves your client to be guilty.
From all my experiences in this courtroom, I've come to realize something. The truth can't be hidden. Sooner or later, it will come out. So it's always my intention to work with my client in pursuit of the truth. I want you to remember what you just said.
Enough dilatory chatter. Counsel for the defense, proceed to cross-examine the witness.
Yes, my lord. I know exactly what you're thinking, Kazuma. I know you're just waiting to point it out. The contradiction you're convinced lies somewhere within this man's testimony. I've never taken the life of another, nor have I instructed another to kill.
Hold it!
So you're not what the general public refer to as the infamous Reaper of the Bailey? Exactly.
Don't imagine for a moment that the court will be satisfied with a one-word answer on this.
I realize that. If you're intending to comment on every sentence, this could take a while, Kazuma. Didn't you find it disturbing, though? That one by one defendants who'd been acquitted after your unsuccessful prosecution were killed? Let me answer that question by posing another. If, one by one, defendants who'd been acquitted after your successful defense were killed, would you find that disturbing? Disturbing? I couldn't possibly say how that would make me feel with a one-word answer like that. Exactly. Well, that told me. But even though I'm not the Reaper, that doesn't mean I ignored all the hearsay. I've been investigating the truth behind the Reaper for years, and I was aware of Gregson's involvement.
Hold it!
You say 4 years. How long exactly? Since the very first time the Reaper's influence was felt in this courtroom, 10 years ago now. And your investigation led you somehow to Inspector Gregson, you're saying? I didn't want to believe it. He was a personal acquaintance. We'd worked on cases together in the past. A friend, even. It felt like a betrayal, but I demanded permission to search his office at the yard without his knowledge.
Which is when you found his secret notebook, is it?
It's when I first learnt of the location he'd noted only as Grouse and the appointment at 5 p.m. on the 31st. Though I didn't know the significance of those details at the time. So now we're at the nub of the matter. As it turns out, the significance for me personally was very unfortunate. That's the reason why I went to Fresno Street that day, and how I came to discover the body.
Hold it!
But why did you go to that specific location? I thought that if it was the Reaper's headquarters, then by turning up there at 5 o'clock, I could catch whoever was involved red-handed. Sadly, all that was awaiting me was the inspector's corpse.
Yes, even though it wasn't designed for you, you walked straight into the trap set by Jigoku. Exactly. Jigoku had intended to implicate Hugh Boone, but unhappily for me, I arrived at the scene first. A ridiculously careless blunder. Moved on to just throwing insults around, I see then, Kazuma. Think what you will, it doesn't change the truth. The point is, no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson.
Hold it!
There is a link between you and Gregson, though. Of course, we were close acquaintances. We'd worked on numerous cases together. I consider the man to be a mentor of sorts. He taught me a number of important lessons. He did? Such as what? Where to buy good fish and chips, and such like. Well, that was convincing. Dr. Wilson was a coroner, of course, but that was some time in the past. And in any case, I understand it was several years ago now that he was invited to work at a Japanese university. That's right. He was a visiting professor at the Imperial Yume University in Tokyo. It should be unambiguously clear, then, that no link exists between myself and him. In other words, I had no motive for sending some assassin across the oceans to kill the man. It sounds plausible enough, and I want to believe it, but something about this just doesn't quite sit right with me. That was my thought. Clearly, therefore, there's no reason to suspect me of being behind the assassin exchange.
Hold it!
Certainly, as it stands, there is no evidence to suggest that you concocted the scheme.
Objection!
But as it stands, we have only the accused's insistence of his innocence. Sorry? Perhaps there is some reason that would explain why he masterminded the assassin exchange. And if a reason could be established later in these proceedings, then the accused's claim in his testimony that he wasn't involved would amount to perjury. Well, yes, that's true, but...
Clearly, Kazuma-sama intends to identify a reason and use it to make his case.
So if we don't identify something first,
he'll gain the advantage.
This could be dangerous. A convincing testimony by Lord Van Zeeks.
Certainly, with no apparent connection between the three men, there's no way to establish a motive. The testimony seems unassailable as far as I can see. Oh dear me, what a bleak expression.
I agree, there doesn't appear to be any particular link between them, at first glance. But with the inclusion of one other person, I must be overthinking it, surely.
Another person, Mr. Naruhodo?
I need to think back over all the information we've gleaned so far.
Alright, and I'll review my notes about the case and all the evidence in the court record.
Could it be that Lord Van Zeeks has something to hide after all? Alright, so... no common thread exists between myself, Gregson, and Dr. Wilson. And Ryunosuke was talking about a fourth person. So how about the autopsy from 10 years ago, Clint's autopsy? The coroner was Wilson. Scarlet ink stains. Man, nothing ever came of that. Inspector Gregson petitioned so doggedly. Wilson, Gregson, and Clint, who was tied to Barak. This could be it. And this is the statement I have the most suspicions on. I'm gonna trust my gut, no thinking about it, just go for it.
Objection!
Oh? What is this? An autopsy report? Wait, this is 10 years old, from the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. What? My brother's autopsy report? I'm pleased to see the defense doesn't intend to run from the undeniable truth. Hey, I got it right. Order in the court. What reason do you have for presenting a 10-year-old autopsy report here, counsel?
The autopsy report of the professor's final victim, is an indelible link between Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson, and the defendant. Not that accursed name again. The professor. I've personally researched all the court records relating to that case. I know that at the time, autopsy was considered sacrilege to the victims' souls. And for a member of the aristocracy like Lord Clint Van Zeeks, it was unthinkable. But someone implored the powers that be to allow the autopsy to go ahead. Inspector Gregson. He declared that he was certain he would obtain conclusive proof from the procedure. And it was Dr. Wilson who conducted the autopsy. His signature is clearly visible on the document. As promised by Gregson, the autopsy did indeed produce evidence. Evidence that conclusively proved Genshin Asogi was guilty of the murders. In my brother's dying moments, he mustered all his remaining strength to leave that vital clue behind.
Indeed, that was the key to indicting the professor for his crimes and the conclusive evidence that convicted him. It enabled Lord Van Zeeks here to avenge his brother's senseless death, with a marvelous victory in court. A marvelous victory, was it? I wonder if that's really true. What? Could the same be said if it turned out that the key piece of evidence in question was in fact fabricated? If the inspector, the coroner, and the prosecutor all colluded together to cast an innocent Japanese man as a mass murderer and send him to his death. You know, maybe I'm starting to doubt Kazuma a little bit. Maybe he's serious. Maybe this isn't a pretense. That's outrageous. And now, 10 years later, for some reason the secret has been threatened and needs protecting. Which is why the inspector and the coroner had to be silenced, isn't it? By someone in power in Japan and in Britain, using the two killers recruited for the assassin exchange. Order! Order at once! 10 years ago, my father was convicted in this very courtroom as a mass murderer, to be sentenced to death. It was all a sham, and I swore to myself that I'd prove it. Which is why I had to come to Britain, whatever the cost. You'll have to forgive me if I feel compelled to toast this vengeful Nipponese's tenacity of purpose here. However, he who fails to quash his emotions in the courtroom has failed as a lawyer. Come on, Kazuma, you know this won't wash. You're claiming your father was misrepresented in a trial that took place a whole decade ago. You must see that without evidence, there's nothing more than a wild accusation. As it happens, I have evidence.
What? What?
As the court has heard, I crossed the channel to France with Gregson on the 31st. I went with him on the pretext of being the assassin recruited to kill Seishiro Jigoku. But my true intentions were to make the inspector tell me the truth.
What truth?
The truth about the evidence. He acknowledged what I'd already deduced. There's a closely guarded secret about what went on in that autopsy 10 years ago.
What? A secret? I know nothing of any secret.
While we waited for my supposed mark in Jigoku's cabin, I drew my clan's illustrious sword Karama before the inspector's eyes. He very quickly understood what my true motive was.
Right, I see. You're that Asogi's young lad, aren't you? And what, you're gonna cut me down with that thing, is that it?
That will very much depend on the answers you give to my questions. I want to know what really happened 10 years ago. The truth, that's all.
Before we get into it, let me make one thing clear. I still believe your father was the professor. There's no doubt in my mind. But unfortunately back then, we didn't have the evidence we needed to make the crime stick.
So, you would admit it then? The evidence used in my father's trial was fabricated?
It was for the good of the country. Anyway, I was just following orders.
Orders? What exactly did you do? Speak.
I'm not saying another word.
Even if your life depends on it?
That's right. Even then.
So that's when the tip of the sword broke.
Oh, Kazuma-sama.
If the results of Clint Van Zieks' autopsy were fabricated, then the investigating officer, Gregson, and the lead coroner, Wilson, must have known about it. They can only have been ordered to pervert the course of justice in that way by one man. The man leading the case for the prosecution, Barak Van Zieks. In other words, the defendant did have cause to organize this exchange of assassins. Exactly. And as was established earlier, it has to have been the Reaper himself who liaised with Jigoku in Japan to arrange the exchange.
Ah!
So it follows that the Reaper's true identity can only be that of the man who stands accused in this courtroom today, Barak Van Zieks.
Well, I mean,
this hardly counts as proof. This is he said, you know? We only have Cosmo's word that Gregson said these things. That's not evidence, it's hearsay.
Kazuma Asogi.
What?
What you've just told the court, are you absolutely certain of your facts? Did Gregson really fabricate evidence for that trial 10 years ago?
I heard it with my own ears. His shameful admission.
In that case, I know. The name of the Reaper. What?
Lord Van Zieks?
I gave no such orders. I know that for certain. Which narrows down the remaining possibilities to one. If Lord Van Zieks isn't the one behind all this, then yes, there is only one other person who could have done something like that. I believe I know who it is too.
You?
I just had a feeling this name was going to come up.
the true identity of the infamous Reaper of the Bailey is... Are we really doing this right now? Okay. There's really only one person above Van Zieks in hierarchy in terms of the justice system. And it can't be like Yujin Mikotoba, because he's been in Japan for years. Ditto for Jigoku. It's time, isn't it? We're doing this. We're making it happen.
Take that!
The only person who could have arranged the assassin exchange and manipulated the autopsy results is the Lord Chief Justice himself, Lord Mael Stronhart. What? Lord Stronhart? Yes, it's true that 10 years ago, the defendant handled the prosecution of the professor in court. But he only took over the case after his brother, Lord Clint Van Zieks, had been killed. I can only assume that this is the most inappropriate joke in British judicial history. Well, Lord Van Zieks, 10 years ago, I was very new to my profession, but I had a burning desire to avenge my brother's death, so I pleaded for control of the case. The investigation to that point, the supplication of the lords to allow my brother's corpse to be examined, all the evidence I was given, the autopsy reports, it all came from you. I've spent my life since then, believing I was in your debt for the way you stood aside and let me handle the trial. But I see now. I was very much mistaken. It was a hugely influential force that caused the inspector and the coroner to break the law 10 years ago. And that same force was still felt a decade later on the other side of the world by Seishiro Jigoku. Lord Stronhart, everything falls into place when we recognize that you are the Reaper of the Bailey. The court awaits your response, my lord. This may very well go down in British judicial history, but I assure you, it is no joke. Consider this a formal accusal by the defense. It doesn't warrant a response. A formal accusal. Don't be absurd. The defense's claims are utter nonsense, a wild fantasy at best. You're not going to defend yourself. You claim there was some wrongdoing with Lord Clint Van Zieks' autopsy. That's utterly untrue.
Objection!
Aha! I knew he would come in. But I heard it from Gregson's own lips. He admitted to it. And where is your evidence? What? Gregson's dead now, unless you were thinking of summoning a ghost to the stand. Well, I know a girl. You mean to say... I forget how the system works in your little backwater country. But in the courts of the British Empire, without evidence, there is no case. I have no intention of entertaining some wild fantasy that can't possibly be substantiated by anyone or anything. Ugh. Order. Order in the court. Following Inspector Gregson's murder, and in the light of Dr. Wilson's death as well, there is really no one left who could testify about the events of 10 years ago, is there? Oh, I know a guy. So that was the real purpose of the assassin exchange. This court has no business raking over the coals of a case that was concluded a decade ago. The accusal brought by the prosecution and the defense is categorically denied. I take it there are no objections.
Kazuma, he's more or less waited his whole life for this moment. Is there really nothing else we can do now? Is there no other avenue we can go down in pursuit of the truth about what happened all those years ago? If only there was someone who could testify about Clint Van Zieks' autopsy. There is someone. He's gone to extraordinary lengths to cover his tracks, even so far as dispatching an assassin all the way to Japan to ensure Dr. Wilson's silence. And Dr. Seath won't say anything against Strongheart. But there's still one ray of hope.
Objection!
Actually, there is one person. One person who could still testify about that autopsy.
Don't be ridiculous. There's no one left.
Who, Ryunosuke? Who? Tell me. Kazuma, Please,
This trial can't end. Not yet.
I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for the truth. The person the defense would like to call to the stand to testify about the autopsy of Lord Clint Van Zieks is Yujin Mikotoba. Jigoku was there 10 years ago. Wilson was there 10 years ago. Yujin was there 10 years ago.
Take that!
Heaven help us. Another Japanese.
An expert in forensic medicine, my lord. Professor Yujin Mikotoba. 16 years ago, he came to London with Seishiro Jigoku and Genshin Asogi as a visiting student.
And what could this testimony possibly tell us?
Professor Mikotoba was the primary assistant during the autopsy in question. He was also the person who actually penned the report.
Incorrect. The autopsy was carried out by the coroner, Dr. Wilson. The report carries his signature.
It was the primary assistant's duty to keep a written record of the coroner's work during the procedure. In actual fact, the coroner merely read over the report at the end and signed it. In other words, Professor Mikotoba witnessed the entire autopsy from start to finish. The defense demands that Professor Mikotoba be summoned as a witness as a matter of urgency. Whatever really happened in that autopsy laboratory 10 years ago is something only he can tell us.
The defense's demand is denied.
What? But Professor Mikotoba is in London at this very moment. We could summon him to the stand in minutes. No, of course he's not going to agree to it. Strongheart has no intention of summoning anyone who knows. He's too concerned about protecting himself.
Prosecutor Asogi, let me refresh your memory, as you seem to have forgotten the prosecution's stance. Only minutes ago, you accused the defendant of being the Reaper and of masterminding the assassin exchange.
I did, yes.
So present your evidence for those claims and make your case complete.
At this time, I don't have the requisite evidence. That's exactly why we need witness testimony.
The professor case is closed. There are no clues in the distant past that will bolster your argument today. I'm afraid to say, Prosecutor Asogi, that you would appear to be possessed by the spirit of your late homicidal father. Now, as I stated earlier, this court has already reached a conclusion with respect to the matter at hand. Inspector Grigson was murdered by Japanese Supreme Court Judge Seishiro Jigoku, As for any hidden circumstances that may exist, they will be investigated in due course by the proper authorities.
Objection!
But we all know what will happen. That'll just give the mastermind of the whole venture time to cover his tracks again.
By which you mean me. Your punishment for this contemptible behavior will be decided at a later date. As for you, Prosecutor Asogi, you will be remanded following these proceedings. Willingly, I trust, since you gave your word.
Ugh.
This futile game of revenge is over, young Master Asogi.
Wag! Yeah, that sucks.
That will be all. I hereby declare this trial to be
Hold it? Who?
Yeah!
Mr. Sholmes!
This is no place for amateur detection, Mr. Sholmes. May I remind you that these proceedings are closed to the general public. You will leave the courtroom at once.
Objection!
Mr. Sholmes was instrumental in the apprehension of Seishiro Jigoku before he fled from Europe. The court should hear what he has to say. Lord Mael Strongheart, it's imperative that you refrain from bringing this trial to an end at this stage.
Is it really? And why would that be?
You need only recall your own words from the opening of the trial to answer that question, if I may. We will stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. Surely it can't be that the shock of being accused of being the Reaper yourself has erased that from your memory, can it?
The whole truth, sir, has already been uncovered.
It would seem that we have a great many important members of the judiciary present here today. I put it to you, my dear fellows, should the trial end at this juncture? After all, why have you been invited to attend? To nod along at the provocations of your superiors?
Order! Order in court!
It seems to me that we stand before a door that leads to a new era of legal practices, a door that is ajar. Let us emerge from the shadows of the Reaper's decade-long ascendancy. For you and you alone, my dear fellows, have the power to push this door open now.
The auditors in the gallery have no rights to express an opinion on court proceedings. Silence!
He's right. The judge has absolute authority here. Yes, if he calls the trial to an end, will that really do? Since dark things occurring behind the scenes, dark things indeed. Is there a single person here present who can honestly say he doesn't, What? The trial should go on. Summon the witness. That's right. We need to clear this up before that young Japanese fellow, My lord, you assured those present that you would uncover the whole truth here. Vindicate yourself on this outlandish accusation. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's the very foundation of British law. A toast to my dependable colleagues in the gallery. Well, my lord, you hear the voice of British justice, I take it? I think you'll find it will be rather awkward to silence.
The court will recess briefly. I have no intention of shrinking from these allegations. Bailiff, arrange for the subpoena for the witness at once. As soon as the gentleman arrives at the courthouse, we shall reconvene. A recess won't be necessary, my lord. Pardon? Mikotoba is a close friend of mine. He accompanied me today and is awaiting in the antechamber as we speak. I do believe he's been enjoying a little trip down memory lane, in fact. What? Professor Mikotoba is here, in the courthouse. Mr. Sholmes, you didn't know this would happen, did you? My dear fellow, no one is in a better position to answer that question than you, Shirley. I wasn't just asking for the fun of it, you know. Well, I must thank you for your assistance in this matter, Mr. Sholmes. However, you are of no further use here. Kindly leave the courtroom at once. But of course, in truth, I find myself rather busy now as a result of these developments. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? I trust you have Iris's little lucky charm with you? Absolutely. It's still in my pocket. She sends her regards and a reminder. If you find yourself at a dead end, the ears are at your disposal. Just one tug, if you please. Oh, of course. In that case, the trial will continue without delay. Bailiff, show the witness to the stand. Hell yeah. So it's Lord Strongheart. He's the Reaper of the Bailey. Where exactly is this trial going to take me, I wonder? Just how deep am I about to be plunged into the blackness of the abyss? Well, I'm ready. I'm ready to head into the heart of this maelstrom and confront whatever horrors it tries to drown me under. He said it! He said the thing! Roll credits. And by roll credits, I mean end the video, because hot damn, what a perfect place to end things. I shall save right here. Oh, Gory, hello. We are at the precipice. We saw the light at the end of the tunnel quite a few videos ago now. And now that very same light is engulfing me. We're here. This is the capital E end. Now, I'm thinking we might have 3 or 4 videos left to go. No way it's next time. No way. No how. But, oh, we're so close. Oh, I gotta say, the entire judiciary assembled here in court, watching on, rooting against, well, not against really, but shouting out that justice must be sought, that the truth must be sought, that Strongheart can't back down from this. Oh, that's powerful. Because every time I played these games and I reached the trial sections, I can't stop thinking about how electrifying and moving being in the gallery must be. Like, it's already enthralling being Ryunosuke and in charge of these decisions, but to be in the crowd watching the back and forth, oh, it's gotta be unreal. And of course, when such a tantalizing mystery is presented, you would shout your lungs out until it carried on. Oh. So, from the sounds of it, Herlock Sholmes is still going to be busy researching something, looking something up? But what? Maybe something in the prison? Oh boy. So, yeah, all things considered, I guess I might have been wrong about my assumption about Kazuma. I think he really was going after Van Zeke sincerely. But this new information is being supplied, and I think he's willing to change his opinion. He's very emotional right now, but hopefully he's the sort who changes his opinion when presented with new data. That is a good thing to do. Lord knows that's a lost art these days. Being presented with something that contradicts your worldview and accepting, oh hey, I guess I was wrong, let me learn this new thing and formulate a new opinion. If everyone was capable of doing that, we would live in a much better world, I think. At least as far as America is concerned. Oh. Yeah, I guess I don't have too much else to say. I'm glad Professor Mikotoba is here. He's such a lovely character. And gory too. Now that's interesting. I wonder how well those two are going to bounce off each other. Are they going to have moments of interruption? I wonder. Huh. Well, I certainly know I am very excited to find out. So, I'm Zephyr the Jester. This has been more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you next time. So until then, please take care.